Welcome to episode 29 of the Sideletters podcast, the weekly B2B insights on film, tech, and future business in Europe, made for professionals and decision makers in the creative economy, such as you. The Sideletters is a conversation between us, three European producers, and our guests, exploring what's going on in the markets, and we share our individual perspectives on that. It's August 26th, and we got some hot topics to talk about. We sat down with Everbright Everready from Tanzania's startup Bright and Ready Labs to discuss her new cinema endeavor in this growing market, and we will also tap into the region's unique VJ culture. But before we get to that, we have some quick news, a summary of Sarajevo CineLink, and a quick preview of the Explorer Konferenz program in Hamburg that was just being released. And of course, why all of this matters for the creative industry in Europe. Jennifer is off today, workshopping. So in the studio, it's me, Joanna Szymanska, producer working in Warsaw.
And me, Fabian, Massah, producer working in Berlin and Hamburg. So great to have you back, Joanna. Thanks for the interview last week with Massah. I really enjoyed it. But tell us a little bit about your experiences at CineLink. What happened there?
Of course, a private safe space sharing. I am still a bit starstruck because in Sarajevo, I've met one of my absolute favorite filmmakers, Celine, Sciamma. I've been a huge fan of her work for many years.
You're a real fan.
I'm a real fan. I've seen all her films. I followed her career. And there's always this kind of slight danger when you meet somebody whose work means a lot to you, that they will disappoint you as a human being, but not the case. Not the case. She's an amazing person, full of integrity, very kind of aware of who she is as a filmmaker, as a person. So whatever I say now about Sarajevo is in that kind of post-meeting the idol kind of zone. But she was there for a reason, not only to meet me, which I think was quite accidental. But I will get back to that because I want to discuss the general kind of vibe in the CineLink this year, because there was this sort of rebellious energy in the whole program. There was a lot of discussions about policy-driven change. And I felt that there were a lot of participants who were very conscious about the circumstances we live in and what should be, what are the issues that should be addressed by regional funds, by professionals, by experts. And I think that, of course, I don't think it's a surprise because this region, the Balkan region, Sarajevo, is, very rich in terms of political, historical contexts. But I felt that it was very different than other industry events that I attend, that people didn't shy away from stating their political needs or desires. So that was really, interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So, and do you think it leads to something more organized? I mean, apparently Sarajevo is providing this platform where people can express themselves freely, but does it lead to some more organization?
Actually, yes. And this is also another difference because, I understand that the size of the CineLink helps this because it's this kind of human size of an event. It's still big enough for important players to come, but kind of, small enough for everybody to be in the same place and to have opportunities to chat, etc. But what I really liked about how the program was structured was that there were not only open panels where people, are in the audience or sitting and some selected panelists are discussing the pressing issues, but then that for some of the panels there were roundtables where you could join and actually work on some sort of tangible results that can be taken away from these discussions. Mm. I had the pleasure of attending 3 of these roundtables. So one was about what's very dear to us here in the Sideletters, which is the metrics of success, how we should measure culture. Should we measure culture? In what terms? Is it economical? Is it social? Is it soft power? That was really interesting. And then there was another panel, which I also found very interesting, about the role of the film fund of today. And can film funds, keep up with the reality? Should they be leading? Should they be following? It was really a very kind of charged discussion also because if you imagine that there were panelists not only from the Balkan region, but from countries like, Luxembourg, Sweden, Estonia, Romania, so from the whole of Europe, really, you could see that there are differences from the get-go, that people have different approaches depending on from which territory they come, what is the size of the territory. And of course, it was quite obvious that there will never be a one common definition of what is a film fund and what it should serve. But what struck me in this discussion was that how much depends on the person who's in charge, really. Yeah. It was so visible, and this diversity was amazing, because people who are there, the leaders of their respective industries, also have different goals depending on what is the industry about, how it's financed, who is the fund for, really? Is it one of the sources, or is it the only source? Very, very interesting discussions. I think they kind of go back to this initiative that EFAD, the Federation of Audiovisual Institutes Directors, put together a couple of years back, when they created this Agenda 2030, and when they really tried for all of these European funds to sort of create a common line of, progressive thinking, of defining their identity. And I feel that this is a try to restart that, because when that previous agenda was published, I think it was a year before COVID, so we know what COVID did to our industry. So I think there is this, again, they're trying to restart it. It was also done with the help of Yuri Mash, who was also present at the table. So that was super, super.
But you're right. I mean, it's all, people have often the perception of a film fund of being this authority, and it's like slowly moving and stuff like that. And some of this is right. But in the end, it's really the people who can shape something. I mean, look what Helga Albers did in Hamburg. Look what Kersti Mo. I mean, we had an interview with her on this podcast.
Or Edith Sepp in Estonia, I mean, there are these people who really shape things towards their vision. And this was also, discussion about having a vision paper. That was super, super interesting. But I think one other thing that came up in these conversations is the common vocabulary. And I think this is that these talks also serve in sort of understanding what are we talking about when we talk about funds, about producers, about the relationship with the stakeholders in the industry. There was one comment that was said that, of course, film funds managers take risks by making their decisions, etc. And I have to say that my initial reaction was like, what the heck?
Yeah, compared to a producer's risk.
Have you ever mortgaged your apartment to pay back the film you shot? I don't think so. But then, of course, they are under pressure. They are taking risks. They have this responsibility, whether it's to the politicians, or whether it's to the Ministry of Culture, or whether it's to the other stakeholders, the funders, etc. So I can understand this, but that made me think that we really need to have more of these talks, and in this practical kind of hands-on form, to see each other eye to eye, rather than to see each other in separate silos. And I think that in terms of Sarajevo CineLink, that really provided a lot of opportunities for that. And that sort of brings me back to Celine Sciamma, who was there also for a reason, as I said, because she took part in launching a new initiative called Sister Sister. Mm-hmm. And it's an initiative that was initiated by Teona Strugar-Mitevska and Asia Krasmovich from Sarajevo Film Festival. And the whole initiative was kicked off by a panel that posed this very beautiful, simple question, which was, are we radical enough? And, spoiler alert, no, we're not. But this
Why
public
did
conversation...
that not surprise me?
No, not at all. The public conversation was with Teona, with Serbian filmmaker Jelena Maksimovic, and Kosovo-born filmmaker Blerta Basholi, and Celine Sciamma was there. And it was to kickstart this practical think tank that was then again kind of followed up by a set of roundtables with female filmmakers, producers, writers, academics, also younger generation of filmmakers, students. And the whole discussion was not about, feminism in cinema or radicalism in the traditional way as we see it. It was tapping to what we discussed also in the Sideletters. Where is the 50-50 by 2020 movement today?
Yeah.
Of course, many things that were discussed are still very necessary. Access to financing, access to the positions of power, decision making, resources, who gets to make their second or third film. And despite the progress in some regions of Europe, in other regions, maybe the progress is not that visible, or it has not even been a part of the conversation. So I think this initiative,
or progress is even going backwards. Like we had in this discussion with Lisa Herbers from WIFT in Germany, for example, we had progress, but now it's going backwards, and we need to stop it.
Yeah. And I think this is what was fascinating in this conversation, because from the topic you would say, okay, they are gonna advocate from some sort of, I don't know, radical violence or something, but absolutely not, quite contrary. And this, I would like to maybe make a little quote. Ms. Sciamma was making this argument that radicalism doesn't necessarily mean, aggression or violence or being louder than everybody else. She was advocating for something she called kind of radical tenderness, radical empathy. And also she said that for filmmakers, maybe the most kind of radical way to be is to tell the story according to their own grammar, rather than just some universal film grammar, imagined grammar of how films should look like. And she also said something that really stayed with me. I never thought of it like this, that cinema is such a young art. It's only 120 years old.
Yeah.
And the audiovisual storytelling is super, like if you talk about movies with sound, it's like 100 years. It's super young art. It still has to reimagine itself. It still has this potential to be something completely different. And I think that was the beautiful part of this conversation, because it was about not only about the structural changes, not only about disproportion in access to funds, but also about the vision of cinema, and what do we put on screen, how it's perceived. Are we educated enough to break the kind of stereotypes we are seeing? It was fascinating.
I think this question goes again to a big part of this is distribution. I think filmmakers, many of them, they would appreciate this and they would do that and tell it in your own narrative, in your own language, and they're ready to do it. But they need distribution. They need to have somebody who's sharing that vision and believes that these films going to find their audience. And this is always the hard part, to convince the market. But anyway, it's good that this initiative is there. But it's called Sister. And can people find it on a website or something that we can put in the show notes?
Yeah, there will be from this, both from the panel and from these roundtables, there will be a sort of open manifesto that you can join. And I think the biggest takeaway from there is that equality, equitability, what we also discuss here, it means that the industry is equal and equitable for everyone, not that it's about giving women something at the men's expense. It's about recognizing people for what they are, but that they are coming from different positions, from different networks, different realities, and that should be somehow balanced. And another thing I want to add is that patriarchy doesn't have a gender, which is very. I was like, wow, that's very.
Yeah. Did they say that? Did they say that in a round table?
This is very interesting. Yeah. This is very interesting. So I would follow definitely Teona Mitewska, who is the leader of this initiative in the region. I know it's addressed mainly for the filmmakers in the Balkans, but I think it is very much inspiring for all of us. Yeah, and I mean, Celine Sciamma should be the president of the world, according in my reality.
Starstruck.
I'm totally starstruck. So this was perfectly objective. But let's now move to Hamburg, because
to the next event.
You are now
event.
Going to Hamburg soon.
Nobody's talking about Venice or Toronto. Forget about that. So Hamburg is coming up.
We decided we are going to focus on things that are local, reachable, and accessible for everyone. So, what is the conference about?
So, this is from the shameless self-promotion corner here. So, as everybody knows, I'm co-curating together with Jennifer and Hee Jung-oh and Ali Hakim the Explorer Konferenz and the program was just released last week, and I'm really proud of what the team has achieved here. And I don't want to go too much into detail. You can read for yourself. We're going to put a link in the show notes. But we have a focus on co-producing with Asian countries, which I think there's a lot of fascinating things going on there in innovation and different ways of telling stories, but also marketing films. And then we have a spotlight on comedy. Actually, we have a neuroscientist from Britain, Sophie Scott, speaking about what happens in your brain when you laugh. And I think this is really interesting and eye-opening also for filmmakers to think about how to structure a story and to get your message across via comedy, because comedy always have this image of being too trivial or stuff like that. But it's really to me, it's one of the greatest arts,
for me, it's the most difficult genre, actually.
Absolutely. And to get your message across. And we have two masters of that also in the fireside chat, Olivier Nakash and Eric Toledano, who are the directors and filmmakers behind Intouchable, for example, and they're presenting their new film, Just an Illusion, at the Hamburg Film Festival. And we have them on stage at the Explorer Konferenz, and we talk about how they approach their stories, how they find their topics, and how they craft their it's not really comedy, it's drama and comedy, but how they craft that and make it reach a large audience. And I'm really looking forward to this and many other topics to tap into, like hard producers' businesses, new business models. We have Maria Eckerhoff there, from producer of Sentimental Value. We have Leontine Petit there from Lemming Films, speaking about restructuring the company. Walker and Mom. It's a huge program. I'm really proud of that. And I hope to see everybody October 1st in Hamburg.
Who is it for? Is it only for producers? But because if you're talking about genre comedy, is it also for the writers, directors?
Actually, the main audience is producers. I mean, This is a lot of what I see from the audience, but actually everybody, script writers, we have directors, there are distributors in the audience. The whole conference is dedicated to innovation in this business. So if there are distributors who are interested in what's going on in terms of filmmaking, and producing, they're also going to sit there, but the majority is still producers. It's and most of them entrepreneurs that have their own companies and are really decision makers. Yeah, about 300 people in the room.
What are the dates again?
It's October 1st, and the FilmFest Hamburg Industry Days, they start at September 28th with European Work in Progress. We had Thorsten Frese here in the podcast a couple of weeks ago. Then there's the International Film Distribution Summit on the 30th. And October 1st is the Explorer Konferenz, like the big bang, the final big bang
highlight
of this year's Industry Days. I'm really looking forward to that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And let me ask you a question, Joanna.
Please.
Were you ever thinking about opening a cinema?
Yes. That's what brought me to this industry, actually. I was
really? Yeah.
Yes. My first thought 25 years ago, when I was still a student at the film studies, I was like, I would love to have my own cinema. I would love to have, and actually I have that experience because my first job in filmmaking was, I was a programming manager for one of the biggest screening rooms in Poland in cinema called Kiev in Kraków. It has over 900 seats. And I was 24 and I was programming it, which was crazy.
Wow.
And I love this. I loved creating the community. I loved thinking of the films, of what the program would be, additional events. I loved it.
I'm asking because maybe it's a good time to reconsider that plan, because I don't know if you heard it, because the servers of AMC in the United States, of the cinema chain, they crashed because people wanted to buy tickets for Dune 3 in advance, and they just couldn't handle it anymore. And what's happening in the US is not Europe, but there are some trends being set there, and we see it even in Germany. Like the box office is crazy at the moment, and usually summer is like the sour times when nobody goes to the movies because they enjoy being out there at the lake. But now we have Spider-Man, we have Odyssey, we have even a German comedy there, and they're all blockbusters. It's crazy. And I was thinking, if the servers crash, that means the demand is higher than the supply, and that's always a good sign. Is this a way coming over to Europe and other continents?
I am getting into distribution. I have to, maybe if we are doing shameless self-promotion, I was granted 2 grants for distribution from Polish Film Institute, new program, and that allowed producers to apply for distribution funds. And we will be releasing two of our international co-productions later this year and the beginning of next year. So I think the diversity, we discussed it a lot, but I think this diversity of business approaches to cinema is something extremely vital for the producers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if opening a cinema is something that can be done overnight, but
it's real estate business in the end.
Exactly, it's real estate business and also snacks business. But I see this as well, and I'm very, very happy. I'm also feeling that people are looking for a kind of escape from the reality, which cinema very much provides. And and that's But that's another discussion. What's the condition of the world, which we should not get into it.
Luckily, we know somebody who opened a cinema right now, and it's in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, which is one of the most innovative markets where things are happening now. Is like in Africa, especially in East Africa, and Dar es Salaam is just in the middle of it. And there's a lot of innovation going on there. And I was lucky to be traveling there and meet a lot of people and see what's happening there. So we're here with Everbright Everready, the co-founder of Bright and Ready Labs, a startup based in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. And Everbright and I met when she was participating in the EFM's Toolbox Distribution Academy last year, which is a program for training and networking for everybody who wants to go into distribution, especially with countries from Africa. And because there's a lot of innovation going on there, and I was lucky to travel there as well to meet with the industry there. And I'm totally fascinated about not only culturally, but also what's going on there. It's really a growing market. Yeah, and Everbright and I met there. And Everbright then, within this program, she developed a startup and competed in the startup competition at this year's European Film Market. And she won. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And we're so happy to have you here.
Yes, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me over. Just a small detail, Fabian, when you said co-founder, I'm the only founder of Bright and Ready Labs. But the rest is right.
So tell us a little bit about you and your endeavor. So because with this Startup Award, you received some funding, which is dedicated to build your startup. And it's dedicated to building startups that have to do with distribution and exhibition of movies, and which could be anything from data collection to classic distribution or world sales and stuff like that. It's just, the money is just not dedicated to go into production. But tell us a little bit about your endeavor, because you opened a cinema, right?
Yes. So essentially about my endeavor, which is called Open Air Fest. It is more of an open air film distribution initiative where we are leveraging on existing informal distribution systems here in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. So what essentially we're doing, we're trying to create this whole multi-entertainment event where film is the core event, and also have these other entertainment events included. So essentially, we do have a culture called VJ dubbing. The VJ stands for video jockey, where essentially we do have these narrators who translate or dub these films and add cultural nuances to these external films that are not Tanzanian, and so that people can consume them. But the thing is that they have been pirating this content. But the bright side of that is that they do have well-established distribution channels. So my whole initiative is essentially trying to legalize that whole process, legally acquire the film, work with these VJs, and also create a fantastic event where people can consume the film, but also have the option to experience other social entertainment activities.
I am so fascinated by this because Fabian had a chance to, see it, experience it. I've never had a chance to experience this VJ performance show. But before we get into details of that, I wanted to ask you, when you were looking at the market, from the perspective of an entrepreneur, how did you see that was a gap? Why didn't you go for, opening a traditional cinema or going into other forms of distribution?
Okay, so we do have cinemas here in Tanzania and in East Africa as a whole, but they're very few. We have less than 10 cinemas in the whole country. And as an entrepreneur, when I looked at the cinema spaces, they mainly screen Hollywood blockbusters and all that. But they also they tap into a very small part of the market compared to this other side where the VJs, they've managed to tap into a wider market and they're very popular. As I said, they're very established. So when I was coming up with the idea, I knew essentially, especially as a young person, I didn't have enough capital to open a whole cinema yet. And I started looking at things that were already existing and what we can do to build on that and then further scale as time goes.
You also have this background in financing and production management that actually helps you probably to get all these partnerships and finances together. But I was interested also who's actually showing up at these events right now, because you had your first screening, right, a couple of weeks ago, and it's still growing, the startup. But what's your experience from the feedback that you get from the audience?
I like how you said that you're very curious to see who's coming up, because I am too. We just had our first event, and then we're about to have our second event on the 12th of September. So initially, when we started the project, we were targeting a more youthful audience, 18 to like 30. Curious Gen Zs who have heard, like myself, who have grown up with this culture, have experienced a bit of it, but we're still curious and are also looking for alternative entertainment spaces. Because being here in the city, we kind of have also limited entertainment formats. So I was targeting that. But when we did the event, guess who shows up? Like 60% of the audience are millennials. And
oh my God.
I forget the generation above that. But we have like an audience of like 25 to like 40 something. And I'm like, wait a minute. I was marketing this for a complete different audience. And another complete different audience still came. So now we're trying to like restructure that and now market it to this audience that actually came for the first one. And then in the second one, we'll see, will they still come or will we attract a different audience? And in terms of like now profiling the audience, apart from just the ages, the people who came, one, are mostly creatives. And two, we had like another % of people who are just curious. Because if you had seen our posters are very playful. We have like the stickmans doing this. They're like, okay, what is this? What is actually happening? We've never had an event where we're watching a film. We are playing games. We are having dances. And then all of that, and then you just pay a single ticket and then you experience all of this. It's unheard of, because you go to events and if there are multiple entertainment activities, you pay for the entrance, you pay for this activity, you pay for that. So most of them were curious, like how is this actually going to work?
Yeah, because I've really struggled to imagine this in a way. It sounds like a great kind of communal opportunity where the film is at the center.
Yes.
Somehow I feel, maybe being a millennial, maybe I get this vibe of, okay, Gen Z sort of student party with a film in the middle. But how does it look like, if you could kind of walk us through, using the business phrase, customer experience? But you get a ticket and you go into what space and what's happening there?
So first of all, it's a big open space. And then right when you get in as a customer, there's this canopy of trees that is leading up to this big inflatable screen. But also we have spaces to the left and spaces to the right where these other activities are going on. So the minute you just walk in and you see that big screen, you're like, okay, what's happening here? And the seats. And it's very laid back, very chill, very community driven. So there aren't like people are sitting on the floor. You just have a bunch of pillows and chairs at the end for people who can't actually sit on the floor. And then on the other side, we have vendors and the other activities. So when you come early, the schedule is we start a bit earlier. We started at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. you experience all these activities. Because it's light, we literally can't screen the film. We have to wait for it to get dark. And the minute it gets dark, everything else shuts down. We pull everyone to the film. You watch the film. The film ends like a word of thanks, and then you can go back to do everything else. So that's why I said there's a lot happening, but at the core of it is the film. So that's why when we're screening the film, everything else like shuts down and the focus, turn off the lights everywhere, come here.
Could you lead us a little bit through the process, how people discover the screening, and on what kind of social media or like maybe physical advertisement you use? And how does the payment work, for example, and all this data collection? Because when we met in Dar es Salaam, it's more than a year ago, we talked about this. Actually, already these huge screenings where like thousands of people actually gather to watch a film open air, but nobody paid a ticket because there was also no ticketing system. But it's a communal event, so to say. In this culture, you're tapping into this, but that means also when you now try to make it a business for you and also for the filmmakers, right? Because they participate also. Yeah. Could you walk us a little bit through the process, how people discover it, how the payment works, and how then the deals with the filmmakers work? I would be very curious about that.
In terms of the payment, we do have open air screenings, but they have mostly been for impact work, like impact film, films educating the society. So it's not a new concept as well. So how do people discover about it? We mostly market the event digitally. We're yet to do billboards and physical adverts yet, but at the moment, our biggest marketing tool is social media and digital media.
Which platforms is that right now in Tanzania?
It is Instagram and TikTok and weirdly Facebook. Yeah, and then also LinkedIn, so
that's where the millennials came from, you know.
From Facebook.
Yeah, the Facebook. I know. I was like, I don't know where they came from. But I was so happy when they came. I was like, oh, okay, this is very interesting. But yeah, so we use mainly those three tools and a bit of YouTube, but not so much. But mainly it's just those three social media apps. And then we also, so that we have partners. We collaborate with different creative partners who are in the creative space, who also have platforms of their own and have a presence in this social media. Social media is very big here in Tanzania. Like nobody... And by social media, I mean the Instagrams, the TikToks, the Facebooks. So everyone, literally, like every company, every brand tries to have a presence there. So we do have like creative partners, the VJ who dubs, the production company, we get the air screen equipment, the space that we are doing the screening, they all have presence. So we do make content and we collaborate with these pages and we ask them to also share in their channels so that people can see we have more visibility. So it's more of a collaboration process. Also, this time around, what we are trying to do is we are also trying to select influencers, but influencers who are actually interested in film, influencers who are more like lifestyle, who have an audience or have a track record of going out, trying different things so that they can also document this and also their audiences can see what Open Air Fest is. So that's our main how we market the event. And then in terms of payment, we do have a ticketing platform partner called Sasa. So essentially, you can click on this link, you can see the tickets because we do have different categories. We have tickets for one person, tickets for two people, tickets for four people, and then you can click this, and then directly you could pay from your mobile phone. Because we do have banks, but mobile money transactions are quite big here as well, are quite common. So you click that link, you select how many tickets you have, it immediately links to your mobile, and then boom, you get a ticket and a QR code you can scan at the entrance, and then you experience the film. And then in the business perspective, we also get a report of how many people came, how many tickets of what category were bought. So it's easier to be transparent with now our film partners who we're doing revenue share with.
So that's very interesting. This mobile money, it's actually something that we don't know in Europe so much. I first encountered it when I was like 20 years ago. I was in West Africa, and people already had all these old Nokia phones. Nobody had an iPhone or like smartphone, but they had these old Nokia phones, and they were just paying digitally in every shop with some point system or whatever, and it was tied to their mobile contracts, and it was so modern in a way and so simple. But this kind of payment is really out there. They charge a little fee, I guess, like a percentage of the revenue, right? But the rest trickles down to you. And I understand that you have a revenue sharing model then with the VJs
with the filmmakers.
And the filmmakers. Okay, so everybody's on board, sharing the risk in a way, but you are like the main entrepreneur behind this, right?
Yes. I am bearing most of the risk at the moment because it's still a new initiative. But also we do share with the filmmakers specifically, with the VJs, with the filmmakers and the VJs. It's more of revenue share, but I do try to give the VJs like a minimum guarantee. Like whatever happens, I do know for the first 6 months, we're not going to be making as much. And they're very hands-on. So I do have like a minimum, I'm just going to use this word, a minimum guarantee fee that they're getting from the event. And then, but the filmmakers, I do explain it to them. I've been very lucky and blessed to work with filmmakers such as Fabian, who have been understanding of the situation and supporting the initiative, whom are okay doing a revenue share without getting a minimum guarantee for the first 6 months. Yeah.
Okay, so if I can kind of dig into this business model, but also about the content. I mean, so what are you screening? I'm not familiar with VJ culture at all. I mean, I imagine, I think I know what it is, but I've never experienced such a performance. So maybe you can share what was the film, or what were the films that you were screening on this show? What are you planning to show? And how does it, correlate with this traditional fun way of watching films with a VJ?
And are the filmmakers ready to, I mean, of course they are ready to have their films dubbed by the VJs, but what kind of films are there? We just talked about Celine Sciamma, the French filmmaker. Can you imagine one of her films being there? She would be ready to agree that
I'm sure she would love that, because...
Actually, that's also a very important conversation I have with the filmmakers when I'm acquiring their films. I'm like, hey, the VJs kind of take creative freedom with your work. So when you do give us your work and I give it to them, it's no longer your work. Like they might change the whole plot or even rename a character just to make it like relate culturally and add their nuances. So I do give them a disclaimer that, first of all, yes, we'll do a revenue share, but also creatively, the VJs will take some liberties with your work. Is that something you are okay with? If they're okay with, we proceed. If they're not, that's it.
Yeah.
So in terms of the films that we're essentially looking for are more lighthearted comedy, romance, a little bit of action, something entertaining, something a family can even come together and watch. And I can also get the universal classification to actually show, because Tanzania is strict in that way that you cannot screen publicly if the film is not classified universal. Because that means anyone, if it's like an open screening, anyone could just cross by and just see your film. So they want to keep it morally acceptable.
Yeah.
So that's why you have
universally acceptable.
Yeah, universally acceptable. So definitely lighthearted films that would entertain people, educate people, and also make them forget about, their everyday life. Because people essentially, from the few audience members I interacted with, they came to get a break from their lives. People have difficult lives, man.
And how is it language wise? I mean, is it basically? I mean, you had your first screening, but are you planning to release Swahili language films mainly, or is it also that people are open to watch films from another country, maybe in East Africa or even Europe or all Africa, and then maybe have it dubbed by the VJ in Swahili? Is that also acceptable for them?
Exactly, because this is my understanding that the VJ is sort of taking over. We have, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but in Poland for many years, we had something called a reader. So like if the film is screened on TV, there is it's not like a voiceover dubbed, but it's like a reader. So you can hear the original text, but then somebody reads over it. They read an actual translation, but I understand the VJ culture is like reinventing the film. They can retell the film.
Yeah, so essentially it's like that. The original sound is still there. They do translate, but sometimes they can even give commentary. So think of it like that, what you do, the reader plus sports commentary. And like if that had a baby, that would be the VJ culture. They would be like, oh, okay, so Fabian walks up to her and says, you look really nice. Oh my God, Fabian, you should have come up with a better line. Like they do translate, but they also like comment. It's very interesting. I really hope I could even send you like an expert of like a video so that you can understand. But essentially it's that they do translate what is actually happening. And sometimes even when the characters are not speaking, they would say, oh, she picks up a pencil and writes dramatically, but her handwriting is not so good. So they just find a way. It's really very beautiful to see. And then it's also very, how could I say, it kind of entertains the people and adds the personality of the VJ in the film. That's why I give a disclaimer to the filmmakers.
I find it fascinating because it's just, this shows me or shows us what cinema can be. Cinema is not just sitting still. It can also be that.
It's an art experience.
As a different experience. Yeah. But are these VJs in your open air cinema, are they commenting live or are you pre-recording them?
For now, they are pre-recording, but they are present during the screening of itself, because I would want them to say something at the end of the screening. And
they are the stars in a way, right?
Yeah, they are the stars, essentially. Essentially, if you've noticed, the whole model is a lot of moving parts. We have like the space, which is also like a creative institution. We have this production company that has the air screen equipment. We have the VJs who have this network. And my job essentially is to just bring them all together and make sure we work in harmony and whatever it is, like we are all happy with the agreement. And I didn't
So a producer, basically a producer in one sentence.
Yeah, it's giving event producer. So it's quite interesting. I'm not going to lie. It's quite interesting because you're always on calls. You're always, before you say yes to something, you have to greenlight it with other people. And also the type of films we do screen are mostly, we're open to universal films, but what we try to do is, if it's a film with Swahili in it, Swahili is the language we speak here in Tanzania, we want it to be a minimal because the VJ does dub the film in Swahili. So for instance, if it's a German film, I will just ask for the subtitles and a bit of the log line. And then we would watch the film together, the whole team, with the VJ there, and then we'll discuss like, what do we think about the film? And then the VJ kind of leads this session because, one, they've been doing it for a while. They know what works, they know what doesn't. So that also kind of just guides us in selecting the kind of films we will be screening, if that makes sense. Yeah, so totally. We are open to universal films as long as like a huge chunk of that is not in Swahili, because that beats the purpose of dubbing it in Swahili.
I feel like I want to share my children films with you so you can screen them in Tanzania. Yes! That would be
actually,
an experience.
Funny thing is, some of these millennials did pull up with children. And I'm like, okay, we actually don't have children events as well. Me think maybe Open Air Fest Children Edition, have a bouncing castle, have people paint faces, and then screen children films. I would honestly, I was thinking about that because I was like, okay, we did target the grown-ups, but who are targeting the children. The children want to go outside.
I see an opportunity here, Everbright.
Yes, and Joanna, the sad thing is, we don't have parks here, like public parks, or we have is it one? Is it two? We have 2 amusement parks, but they're so far out. So it's only if the parents or the parent has enough time, then they have to drive to this place to have their children have fun. So I'm like, okay, maybe create a space that is accessible, that the children can have something to do and the grown-ups can have something to do, and they all exist in this perfect harmony without one bugging the other. So I was actually thinking about that when some of them did come with children. I was like, oh, actually, very interesting.
That brings me to a question about pricing, comparable to other activities that parents or grown-ups could do, or parents with their children in the market, like going to the amusement park or going to a regular cinema or whatever activity you want to do. How is the ticket pricing compared for your event? Because I understand you're not just offering a movie, you're offering a full event, with it that starts in the afternoon already, and you have some cost, right, for that. So is your ticket pricing, how do you keep it affordable?
That is also something we are trying to hack, because we are trying to keep it very affordable so that more people can access it. And then also because our market is very price sensitive, we do go to events, we do go to concerts, but they're mostly musicians and they happen once or twice in a year, compared to Open Air Fest that I'm trying to establish it as a recurring monthly activity. So that is something we are also trying to hack, whereby we do price it in a way that, one, we can cover the basic operational costs, but also, two, we are also looking for sponsors, brand sponsors here in the country, who can now be like, hey, I'm supporting the film experience, I'm supporting the gaming experience, I'm supporting the dance experience. So we did have a sponsor for the first one. They supported the whole setup, the lights and all that. So that helps us cut costs from the budget and repurpose them in another item. So that is also something we are still working on, because we do want to keep it affordable. And we are also exploring other ways we could make revenue from the event, like play ads on the screen. You know how when you go to the cinema, before they play a film, before they do the trailer, they do have the ads. So we are trying to approach different revenue sources like that, like explore the ad space that we can provide. Hey, we have this big air screen. We'll have 300 to 400 people here. We could play your ads, we could incorporate your product, we could partner in one experience. Oh, you do energy drinks, how about you sponsor this part of the whole event? So that is something we are also exploring at the moment, so that we continue running and make this event sustainable.
The open air cinema that I was here, that is here in Warsaw, I think it's quite big, and it has a titular partnership from a travel company, from airline actually, from Polish Airlines. They are like a titular company. And another thing that was what I think is attractive for the audiences is that there are little awards from the sponsors that are not maybe given away to everybody, but if you take a seat and under your seat you find a little sticker or something, you can go and collect a little award. And then people are walking around with, and these awards, I had a look at it actually quite funnily. We went with a friend of mine who, it was her birthday, and she was the one who got the award, so it all lined up nicely.
That was nicely aligned. Like, it's your birthday and you get the award.
But the thing was that people really, walk around as like little tokens, but you can see that the audience feels rewarded for the fact that they have showed up. So that's super interesting. So now you're going into your second event in a couple of weeks.
In 2 weeks. Yeah.
So what are you doing? How are you marketing it? What's the response so far? Do you expect the high kind of return rate of the audiences that were there in the first screening?
I would like to say for this second edition, we are having really good sales for the first week because we announced the week before the last week, and then we already sold like 25% because we had what we're doing now. We have like an early bird offer where the tickets are a tiny bit lower so that we could pay for the venue actually. And then so now like 25% of those tickets are actually gone. While with the first edition, oh my God, we had too big. We had to be in people's faces all the time. Like, hey, there's this event. And we started like, by the time we sold 25%, that was like 5 days to the event. I was losing my mind. I'm not going to lie. It's like, yo, nobody's buying tickets. Why aren't people buying tickets? Is the message clear? So yes, one, we do have discounted offers. Right now, for a limited time, like we have an early bird offer that ends on 31st August. Second thing, back to the data, when people buy the tickets from our event, we get access to their names, their phone numbers, and their emails. So guess what we did? We made a whole beautiful WhatsApp community and we spam them. We force feed them. Yeah, but we also interact with them. And we did send like a survey link for them to give us honest feedback, and people were quite honest. And then the other approach we are trying to do, because at the moment, making a profit is not our priority yet. We are working on building a loyal and reliable community, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you are a startup, right?
Yes. We need people who would ride or die for us. So initially, we do have the early bird offer, which kind of gives us a little bit of money to start preparing on the logistics, as well as the grant funding from the EFM. But also, we do have vendors. We have specifically curated vendors or invited vendors who sell different items. We will not be charging them for rent, but we would need them to shout, like make content about the event before, during, and a little bit after. So that one, we are still tapping into their audience, people are seeing us, and even if people don't know who we are, maybe they will show up because they want to get these sunglasses. And we also talk to the vendors and we're like, hey, since we're not charging you rent, can you just lower the prices a little bit so that people feel it's an exclusive event, that instead of buying shades for €5, you could buy them for like €4 when you come in this event. So we get the ticket sales, they sell their products, we tap into their audience, people come and then like, oh wow, okay, actually this is happening in Dar es Salaam. Wow, cool. Let me share this with my friends.
Millennials like bargains. They like early bird and they like getting the sunglasses for 20% lower, right?
Yes, and lower. So what we're trying to really do, like what we're really big on is collaborating with as much creative people as with different people, with different brands, because we also have like an abundance of small businesses that are also looking to find a space, to find collaborators. So we are reaching out. If it works out, we're reaching out saying, hey, we have this event. We don't have any vendors. Can you come display your product? We won't charge you rent, but can you post about it? Or can you invite 5 people? Or can you invite 4 people? Then the 4 people have to pay for the ticket though. The 4 people have to pay for the tickets.
But
you
I
are
love
not
this
paying for the
because
rent.
But this is such a communal experience, and it really resonates with me because it's built also on how the society is structured. You're not kind of imposing anything from the outside, but you're building a kind of grassroots event that is embedded in how the people perceive culture and audiovisual culture in Tanzania. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm looking at time. I'm aware of time, so I'm just going to ask, kind of maybe wrapping it up a little. So what's the second film you're going to screen? What is the core of the event that's coming up?
The second film we're going to screen is actually a South African film. It's very hilarious. It's called Skorokoro. It's currently being dubbed today. And then with the second edition, we're looking for a bigger audience as well. The first one, we had a total of 150 people, 100 being paid, 50 being invited from these different partners and collaborators. For this second one, we're hoping to double that, to get 300 to 400 people. So the space is still the same. The collaborators are still the same. We're just trying different now. Now we have the vendors who would come, but they wouldn't pay rent, if that's making sense. And then we're collaborating with influencers. So I think with every edition, we are experimenting with what works and what wouldn't work. So, and we're honestly curious to see the results.
If you had more backing and if you're growing, are you thinking about increasing the frequency or have more locations? Or maybe you want to expand to Europe. I would love to see that in Europe also.
I don't think I know the Europe market as much yet to expand to Europe, but maybe let's put a pin on that. Let's talk. But
I totally see an opportunity to do like a themed event that would introduce us to the VJ culture, which we are not aware of.
VJ culture,
that would
definitely.
Be very interesting.
100%. So with more backing, essentially, we are working to make it a monthly event. But most importantly, we would want to now start acquiring like equipment, like projectors, because at the moment, every equipment we have nothing to our name. So it would be nice we have nothing to our name. It would be nice to acquire like the equipment to make this happen. So even when maybe we don't have the sponsors, the glamorous sponsors or anything else, we can still maintain it being a monthly thing. So the equipment. And with time, honestly, when I was in Berlin, we went to this beautiful open air cinema, and I would honestly like something like that, like a specific place known that this is specifically for open air cinema. I would want like that. So
we wish you that. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, and I'm really excited about your startup. And, I'm really honestly excited about VJ culture. And I hope that Europeans also could experience it at some point, maybe as a guest or kind of performance in Europe. Or maybe if they go to Tanzania or Uganda is also like a big market for VJ culture, different culture, but it has a lot of VJs. I would highly recommend it. It's really eye-opening.
I do really feel that this is, despite the millennial increase in your audience, that this has a very youth kind of Gen Z vibe, that it takes this remix culture and applies it to the film and makes it kind of something fresh and something new. So I am really inspired. I'm going to now Google it and check on YouTube how it looks like.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming to us, Everbright, for taking the time, and really good luck for the next screening.
Thank you so much. Yes, Joanna, I'll keep you posted when we are doing the
when you're ready
version.
For the children's edition, and we will share the link to the initiative in our show notes.
Thank you so much. I had a great time. Bye.
Ciao. Well, that's it for today. Thank you, Everbright Everready, for this wonderful look at the VJ culture. And thanks to my co-hosts, Fabian, Massah, and Jennifer Sabah Imagine. Make sure you follow our community on LinkedIn. That's simply the Sideletters. And see you next Wednesday. We will be back with B2B insights on the creative industries in Europe.